This week, shocking, stunning, big news Morgan style. Because Oda, for the first time in a long time, consumed a giant fistful of Wheaties and actually showed us the continuation of the Trafalgar Law versus Blackbeard fight. The Heart Pirates versus the Blackbeard Pirates continued. That blew my mind. I could not believe what I was reading. Very impressed on Oda's part, because honestly, we all kind of knew that Oda has this ability. It's a very scary ability called the skip ability. He can skip whenever he wants to, and it's very sad when he does do it. However, I mean, he did, I guess, kind of do it because we see the Kurozu happen and we cut away. Okay, but we still got Blackbeard versus Law content, which is muy bueno. And actually, in the official translation of the chapter, there are some, of course, translation differences that do add some important context to some information that we got in this chapter. And there was a debate that I had with some of the tier 3 guys on my Twitch channel about the chapter during the post-reaction discussion, and the viz does clear things up. So if you haven't seen that, go in the box below to my twitch.tv channel for the full chapter reaction and the post tier 3 discussion stream. And of course, if you just want to see my reaction, go to my Cole Requiem channel. Before we get to the video review itself, I gotta say, once again, do not underestimate tech in the world of One Piece. What we got at the end of this chapter is a tech smorgasbord, and it's absolutely delectable, delicious, which is going to require, of course, more, what? You guessed it, theory and discussion videos. Duh. And for this video review, we're gonna break things down step by step and piece by piece when it comes to the main components of the chapter, the pacing and the chapter structure, the character components of the chapter, and finally, the story progression components of the chapter. And before all that, I gotta give some love for today's outstanding sponsor, which of course is none other than the Surfshark VPN. So most of you guys and gals are weebs, right?
Right.
It is what it is. That's who we are. That's what we are.
Goddamn right.
As a result of being us, we do go to these very dark and dangerous corners of the web. Some folks would say these spots of the web are not for common folk, right?
That's beautiful.
And when we go to these spots, we do so in the name of knowledge and, of course, for culture.
Correct.
However, as a result, we do leave ourselves vulnerable to outside forces. Whether it's phishing attempts, viruses, malware, you name it, there are going to be bad actors out there in the World Wide Web that are going to try and ruin your day. Well, Surfshark VPN, without a doubt, can shut down a lot of these bad actors. When it comes to your online security, online privacy, Surfshark has your back in so many unique ways with so many damn good features, like the clean web feature that can snuff out any malware, any viruses that may be in certain areas of the web that you're perusing. And mind you, Surfshark VPN can be utilized on all devices, no matter where you are in the world. Whether it's iOS, Android, Linux, Macs, Windows, doesn't matter, Surfshark VPN can have your back. And what's also really important too is that your boy does have region-gated content.
Impossible.
It is what it is. But with Surfshark VPN, you can get access to my region-gated content, one, and then two, any other region-gated content on various other platforms like Disney Plus, like Hulu, like Netflix. Just simply change the location that you're located in, and then boom, just like that, you can gain access to a host of content that previously you had no way of getting. So check out Surfshark VPN in the description box down below and use code COLE, that is KOL, to get not only 83% off, but also 3 months free off of your purchase of Surfshark VPN. Thank you, Surfshark VPN, for being awesome. And now, back to the video. So now let's get into the chapter in full detail. First of all, of course, the pacing and the chapter structure. For this chapter, there are a total of 5 parts. Number 1 is the Heart Pirates versus the Blackbeard Pirates on Winter Island. Then we do cut to Blackbeard's ship and see what's going on inside there. Number 2 is a brief cut to Marineford, the new Marineford. Number 3 is on Egghead, the future island, which is now known to the Fabrio level with Luffy and his clique. Then part 4 is elsewhere on Egghead Island in the Labo level of the island following Vegapunk Lilith. And then finally part 5 is somewhere, I'm assuming, on Egghead Island with Shaka the Good. So those are the 5 parts of the chapter, and I would say overall the pace and the structure of the chapter is for the most part pretty good. The previous 2 chapters were 100% better than this chapter in that department of pacing and chapter structure, but this chapter I think is still ultimately good, just not great or amazing. We do cut to a Kainu at the New Marineford, which right now seems kind of random, because all it really does is just tell us, the readers, ultimately where Law and Teach are fighting right now on Winter Island. So it may have a loose tie-in to, let's say, Dragon come the end of the chapter, because we do know that Dragon and Akainu have some sort of history. However, ultimately speaking, it is a bit early to kind of tell what's going on exactly on that ground. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think some readers may find a bit off is the cover story itself. For the first time, I think, in One Piece, at least for a while, kind of converges with the actual main story itself, because we see Von Olga, we see Kuzan, and we see Pudding in the cover story, and then we see in this chapter, of course, Von Olga, and we see Pudding on Blackbeard's ship. So that may seem a bit confusing for some readers here, because it may and probably does bring into question the timeline as to when the cover story is taking place. Cover story in the actual timeline of One Piece is not happening, let's say, a day or 2 ago. It's happening weeks ago. Because remember, this is the Germa cover story. This is the Germa 66 cover story, and this cover story starts off essentially when Big Mom is in Wano or Onigashima. And the Germa cover story starts in chapter 1036, and even though the chapter itself was during the Zoro and King fight, they themselves, Germa, at the time, it's the morning, and they're escaping Whole Cake Island. So we're getting the cover story from the past, minimum 3 or 4 weeks ago. So outside of some potential confusion here or there, the pacing, I think, for this chapter is relatively, again, clean. Now, for the character section of this video, first and foremost, we got to start off with Zehahaha Blackbearda. So before the Tremor Crush, and this is actually a key thing that I argued with the tier 3 guys. Before the Tremor Crush, Blackbeard is seemingly applying Haki to his right hand in this sort of stance. Unlike the scan version of the chapter, where the sound effect is crack crack, the official translation has the zzz sound effect that relates to lightning and sparks, and for Black Lightning particularly, it is armament and or conqueror's Haki. So this probably means that before the Tremor Crush was actually used, he applied Haki to the technique. Haki was being used by Blackbeard during this fight. In the previous chapter, we do see these large black lightning bolts come out of the water explosion, and that is more akin to Conqueror's Haki related stuff, mainly Conqueror's Haki infusion. So it's very likely that Blackbeard did utilize Conqueror's Haki in some capacity, or at least Haki in some capacity in that previous chapter. And then on top of that, black sparks are present during the direct clash of Blackbeard's Quake Punch and Law's extended Awakened Devil Coated Sword. I'm leaning more towards that those sparks, for the most part, were either just Haki or they're a combination of Haki and the cracking effects in the air for the Gura Gura no Mi. But it is going to be very tricky, without a doubt, because the way they're drawn are very, very similar. But there is a difference here. See, stylistically, I wish Oda did white lightning with a black aura around them to signify the cracking effects of the Gura Gura no Mi, but I digress. The key difference here is that when we do see the Gura Gura no Mi cracking effects in the air, not only is there a sound effect that says crack, not the drug, but the actual ability being used, but also there is a sort of center point, like a focus point where all the cracks originate from. We see that specifically with the Tremor Crush, and we have seen before time and time again when Whitebeard fought in the manga back in Marineford. So when Law and Blackbeard actually have that physical clash face to face, we do see seemingly black lightning bolts not only inside of the Quake Sphere, but also they hover around the Quake Sphere too, which I think again indicates that it's Haki being used. And keep in mind that in Marineford, Whitebeard did also utilize his Quake ability without any cracks whatsoever. So I think it's likely that Haki is used in this case as well. It's not necessarily confirmed because the effects looked very similar in the manga, and the suffix sound effects are going to be pivotal in discerning, I think, when there is just the ability being used or when Haki is also being utilized on top of the ability itself. Speaking of which, actually, Blackbeard uses the first name attack in the manga and in the anime for the Gura no Mi. Once again, the Tremor Crush. And since the ability in English is actually called the Tremor Fruit, it might be a play on how Luffy used the ability, where Luffy says Gomu Gomu, which means like rubber, before most attacks. So in this case, Blackbeard may actually say Tremor before his Quake ability attacks. Maybe. We have to wait and see how that plays out in the future. But the attack itself makes a long-range shockwave, and the entire Winter Island is shaking. It also seems to do direct damage to some of Law's crewmates on land. This means, I think, that the Tremor Crush is a similar version of attack to what Whitebeard did against John Giant back in Marineford, but in this case on a wider scale. BB is also able to actually break out, I think at least break out, of the R room, the Re room, that surround himself, Doc Q, and Stronger. And if that's what happened, if BB actually broke out of the R room, then of course it's the combination of the shockwave itself, but also the Haki that would do damage to the Deathroot ability itself. Blackbeard also has this very cavalier Leroy Jenkins sort of mentality, where he just kind of goes in there, at least for the time being, half-cocked, which we have seen before, but it is a good reminder to where sometimes he's very patient, he's very conniving, he'll wait in the shadows like a snake ready to strike, and other times when he's overconfident, he'll just run in there and do mad lad stuff. But the last thing for Blackbeard is that he has enough endurance to take a Shock Willy, an attack that is way more powerful and does way more damage than a Gamma Knife, an attack that ignores conventional durability even more so than the Gamma Knife. He took that attack and he kept pushing. Blackbeard kept it pushing. He told Von Auga, we're gonna stay on the offensive. So that is Blackbeard for this chapter. Very impressive. But of course, what also matches Blackbeard in terms of impressiveness is the next on the character list, Trafalgar D, Water Law. Law has 1,000,000% gone better with his Devil Fruit ability, among other things. Since the raid on Kashima, which he said back then that his awakening couldn't be used in an actual real fight. But now here he is using this fight one-on-one against Blackbeard. Not just one-on-one, effectively using it against Blackbeard and his crew. Off the gate, that he is matching a, I think, Haki-infused Gura no Mi attack with his awakened ability, which probably, very likely, consists of some degree of Haki as well. Law is looking extraordinarily impressive at this point in time. It's ridiculous how good Law's feats continue to be on a regular basis. But now continuing with Law himself, he was surprised of Blackbeard's actions before he used the Black Vortex, the Yami Yami no Mi ability. So it might be the case here, keywords here, that Law is seeing the future, or at least sensing that something is off using what? The observation haki. On paper, Law does have that ability, though we rarely, if ever, seen Law use that skill before. And this could be the first time, potentially. After that, one last note for Law greatness. Marineford gets word of Blackbeard and Law making contact. Very, very similar to how they keep tabs with major pirates, particularly Yonko guys. So Shanks and Whitebeard made contact. Big Mom and Kaido made contact. Law and Blackbeard made contact. Now, I'm not saying that Law is like definitively Yonko Blackbeard level. No. In fact, I would say he's not, for sure. However, it does show you just how much his prestige, his notoriety have elevated in the world itself, where the Marines feel threatened so much by Law's presence, they need to keep tabs on him. That's impressive. Well done, Trafalgar D. Waterlaw. Well done. After Law himself, it's the Heart Pirates, his crew. His crew start doing the impossible, because they start actually doing something. They're still top heavy, but they're not jobbers? Hold up now. First of all, Penguin and Sachi, they are not only expert swimmers, but they're damn near fisherman-like expert swimmers. And as far as we know, they're humans, but we're pushing it. We're pushing it. Sachi sucks in a large amount of water like he's Kirby. And then with this water in his body, he expands like a blowfish. He then takes that water in his own body and he focus fires a water hydro pump like he's Blastoise, and he destroys falling apple bombs that Daku was throwing at the Heart Pirates. Sachi did something very significant in a battle against the Blackbeard Pirates, folks that are arguably contenders to be the final villains of the series. Never in my wildest dreams would I've ever seen that coming. Honest to God. Honest to God. After that, we have Beppo. Beppo has essentially good hearing, kind of like Cat at times, where you can hear Von Augur trying to snipe Law. And then after that, who comes in there? John Bart. John Bart is durable enough to actually face tank bullets from Von Augur without taking a single scratch. No, zero damage. Pure face tank. So, John Bart, Beppo, but Sachi and Penguin, whoa. They're not that much of a joke, as many folks, including myself, thought they were. I gotta admit it. It is what it is. After that is Akainu. Akainu starting to hate his position as Fleet Admiral, because the man wants to fight. He wants to stop these pirates from meeting up. But he has to do his job and sit on his booty, because, my God, he has to run the show from afar. He has to wait for the battle to come to him, which in the future, it definitely will, without a doubt. After Akainu is going to be Bartholomew Kuma. So a little bit more of his backstory was revealed through Jinbei. Kuma was known as a tyrannical king, but was overthrown by the people, and after that became a pirate. At some point, he did join the Rev, but then was captured by the Navy and was going to be sentenced to a life of imprisonment, until of course Vegapunk slid into the Kuma DMs and got him out. Bonnie though insists something different happened with the kingdom, and Kuma was not a tyrant. And apparently, according to her, Kuma hated the world government and normally would never work for them. And on top of all that, Bonnie claims that the world government did experiments on Kuma by force. Not that Kuma willingly gave himself up to the world government for experiments, but no, they forced him into it. So the true story might be a mix of, let's say, what Bonnie says and then what Jinbei is saying, which I think is what's commonly known about Kuma. However, apparently, Kuma is a part of a, quote, special people, end quote. I can sit here for hours just spitballing on which race he's a part of. For the time being, the No Leg clan that has literally no leg mass, but use anti-gravity to walk around. Hey, that's what I'm saying for the time being. After that, we have Vegapunk finally for a character. And Vegapunk slash, I guess, Shaka in this case. Because Shaka is one that talks about how being a genius, he kind of knows that his death is imminent. But is that him, Shaka specifically, or is that Vegapunk, the main Stellar body, and Shaka is communicating that idea, essentially, about the main Stellar body? Not too sure. The context is a little bit mysterious, obviously. And what's also unclear here, too, is if it's, let's say, a natural death, or let's say a more sudden and shocking death, let's say involving CP0. Does Vegapunk know that CP0 is on the way to take them out? You do have to wonder, especially when Vegapunk is talking to a member of the monkey family. But that is it for the character section of this video. Now, the story progression components of this chapter. First and foremost, the cover story. The Germa 006 cover story has wound up being one of the most pivotal cover stories in One Piece. Why? Kuzan and Von Auga, confirmed the ones to pull up on Cacao Island on Chocolate Town to take pudding. Now, as I mentioned before, in the pacing and the chapter structure of this chapter review, this in the timeline happened weeks ago in the story from the current main story timeline. This at least happened during the raid on Onigashima, because you can argue that when we first saw those boots in chapter 1046, in that cover story page, in that same main chapter, we're in the midst of the Luffy versus Kaido fight. However, like I said before, this cover story actually starts off with Germa escaping Whole Cake Island in the morning hours. So it's very, very likely that these two guys raided Chocolate Town well before the raid on Onigashima even started. But although I think in the future we'll clear it up, since this cover story is like hand in hand with this main story material. And also this confirms that Kuzan and Von Auga, they did not go further into Totland. They just went to Chocolate Town on Cacao Island and they essentially took pudding and then they bounced. After the cover story, Law versus Blackbeard continued. Massive pog. Very impressed with Law and his crew, no cap. I mean, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but my position on Law's crew has to increase now, because Law's crew did perform very, very well. They actually did do something. They're not scrubs. It's kind of like Yosaku and Johnny, Zoro's old school boys in East Blue, actually fighting against Hachi or Chu and actually being useful. They're doing something. One of potentially the most shocking events in One Piece history. Law's crew is not worthless. Whoa. And Law himself looking very, very magical. Like, this man could easily be a Hogwarts professor. It is very impressive. I know there are some folks that are trying to downplay, of course, some folks are trying to downplay the Law greatness.
Who?
Because Law versus Blackbeard is, let's say, quote, similar to Yamato versus Kaido, end quote. That's a hard cap. C-A-P, without a doubt in my book, because this dude Law did off the rip way more damage to Blackbeard than Yamato ever could do to Kaido during their fight. That's just big facts. So Law has been, I think, again, very impressive. The Law greatness just continues to just elevate. And this is going to require, without a doubt, a separate video just talking about Law and his greatness. That's going to come later this week. I promise you. I promise you that. Is he still losing to Blackbeard? Yes. Again, Kurozu, Vortex. We're in trouble. Law is devil fruit heavy. That's just the facts. But I respect it, man. I respect the piss out of it, without a doubt. But during all of that, who do we see? Pudding. Pudding is on Blackbeard's ship. So if Law gets captured, then he might share a cell with his, quote, mother's killer, quote, killer, Pudding, end quote. And 2 quotes. Huh. She's also roughed up with some bandages and some marks on her face, which of course is the result of her treatment by her captors, the Blackbeard pirate crew, and or when she was captured by Kuzan and Von Auger. So, once again, Sanji's gonna have some words with somebody. The question is who? Seeing her smile, it seems like she has gained some confidence from Whole Cake Island. Now, whether or not it's because she's putting on airs to look tough in front of an enemy pirate crew, but also know that her third eye isn't being hit anymore. Like her bangs aren't covering her third eye, which again could have came from Sanji and his actions back on Whole Cake Island. But also, might be the case here where she awakened her ability. Her third eye can actually now read the poneglyph rubbings and that ancient language. But I have my doubts on that one. I really, really do. Now, after Law and the Heart Pirate Madness and the Blackbeard crew going in, we have to get back to the main character, Luffy, on Future Island and Egghead Island. So, Luffy and his clique escape the Kuma Cop via Bonnie's ability to change their identities. The aged up Luffy design is actually very similar to the 60-year-old Luffy design that Oda drew for the future of the Straw Hats. There are good futures and there are bad futures. And what we see in this chapter is a future where things went wrong with Luffy. It's that same design with more gray hair. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Jinbei looks exactly like the younger version of himself that Oda drew for all the warlords. So we have the kid version of the warlords like Mihawk and Boa Hancock and Doflamingo and Kuma, and also Jinbei as well, doing some karate training. But the only difference here is that Jinbei still has the scar on the left side of his face. Now this all takes place in a scrapyard area. And in the scrapyard area, there are, I think, many goodies that may require some theories. Who knows? However, Bonnie finds a beam saber or a lightsaber, how I want to say it. And it cuts very cleanly. So in my mind, use it. Whether it's the light side or the dark side, it doesn't change the fact that it's a beam saber. The same things that a lot of Gundams use. So I would absolutely use the beam saber for whatever purpose you want to use it for, Bonnie. Please do so. Now would be a great time to learn some swordsmanship, without a doubt. And then, of course, you have Kuma's backstory, okay? Which, of course, involves the very intriguing reveal that Kuma's of a special race. So once again, whatever Kuma is, we don't know at this point in time. But Bonnie should be that race if she's not adopted. If Kuma is actually her blood father, then whatever race he is, Bonnie is also. But Bonnie seems to be very similar to like every One Piece girl for the most part. Same as Nami, same as Robin, same as Boa Hancock. She's not different at this point in time. And she looks nothing like her dad. Her legs are normal. That chin, that crimson chin, neck chin is not there. So again, adoption is a safe bet. After I cut away from moving this clique to the rest of the Straw Hats. And lo and behold, the Vega Force, like I knew it would, the Vega Force 01 can fly. And the reason why is a massive wow. It's flying with a combination of jet boosters for propulsion, but mind you, this thing is massive. The Sunigo itself is actually a pretty big ship. It's 56 meters tall, or 183 feet high. It's a big ship from base to mast. And this ship looks tiny, very minuscule compared to the rest of the Vega Force 1. So the Vega Force 1 is huge, but it's flying around. So it's not just because of the jet boosters, but also it, quote, floats using anti-gravity, end quote.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Now, according to Lilith, okay, this is tied to the island's AC, the island's air control in some way that makes it possible for the Vega Force 01 to fly. Now, keep in mind that the Vega Force 01 was already active in the ocean waters near Egghead Island, but it wasn't flying. So there's a good chance they can still utilize a lot of its capabilities underwater. Fair enough, fine. But when it's on or near the island itself, it can also start to fly and float. This also probably explains these floating rings around the top of the island itself. So the fact that anti-gravity exists, I can't do it here in this video. I just can't do it. I cannot. But I've been saying for a long time, Tech is busted, yo. Tech can do the gnarliest things in One Piece. And I did a video recently on that too. So I'm gonna do a video on that one in the future for damn sure. But for me, that was a big deal. After that is some of the layout of how this island works, where the future island of Egghead has, for the time being, 2 main layers. One is above in this sort of Sky Island layer called the Labo phase area, where a lot of the research goes down. And then the bottom is this phase called the Fabrio phase area, where it's a lot of factories-based stuff where the workers and the researchers live. And the actual clouds themselves come out of some giant techno champagne glass to actually create this cloud layer area. So clearly very tech savvy, very futuristic, of course. Especially considering how the last person who could do this stuff, NL, could just make thunder clouds. But these clouds are particularly unique, which I'm gonna get to real soon. But you can see how we're revisiting a lot of old concepts in this particular arc. And so at this point, the Strat crew does split even more, where Zoro and Brook are going to watch the ship, and Frankie, Sanji, Usopp, Robin, and Nami are gonna go on the island itself. Now, what does that mean? Good things for who? Particularly Frankie. Because Frankie is normally doing what? Watching the ship. But in this case, because Frankie is tied to Vegapunk so strongly, the ship can be guarded by Zoro and Brook, cool. And arguably, if there are going to be any power-ups or any gains to be made in this arc by any Straw Hats, those two are among the least likely to get any gains in this arc. And for the first time, Frankie does actually feel the island clouds of the Sky Island. And Vegapunk Lilith explains how they recreated the Sky Island sea and island clouds. And her explanation is almost like point for point the same explanation that Pagaya gives in chapter 240, where he explains the formation of the island clouds and the sea clouds. Particularly, he goes even deeper, where he talks about how the keratin that actually forms these sort of clouds is hurled into the sky by volcanoes. And depending on the density of the cloud and the pyroblin that is also in these volcanoes, they can either become sea clouds or island clouds. Of course, sea clouds are similar to the actual seawater down below, because pyroblin is actually one of the materials that makes up Kairoseki, sea stone, which is why back then on Skypiea, Luffy fell into the sea cloud ocean waters and he couldn't swim. And then even further, what's not mentioned in this chapter particularly is the foundation of the Sky Island itself, which is the Imperial Cumulus Cloud, where it's a gigantic cumulus cloud that's actually been somewhat fossilized, where there's no atmospheric events going on within the cloud itself. It just maintains its frame at 10,000 meters above sea level. And that giant Imperial Cumulus Cloud is the foundation of the White Sea and the White Sea of Skypiea. So seeing some of these very similar processes on Skypiea back here on this arc, I think is a really dope thing and potentially a sign for the future of this arc. But again, another video, another day. But these were things that were established over 800 chapters ago. And here we are now in 2022, and they're coming back in amazing ways. So after all that, of course, new outfits. We find out that the shoes that Jewelry Bonnie and Luffy and Jimmy are now wearing are called Dom shoes. They don't necessarily match the name, but hey, you know what? To each their own. And these shoes can actually match any sort of feet by pressing down on the lever, and then it actually matches the wearer's feet. So we have the new designs, and the new designs of the Strats are like really bueno. Particularly Robin and Nami. Nami is cute. Robin is just as per usual off the charts. Usopp, could be better. Sanji has some Hawaiian drip, which matches the God King Shanks. I'm cool with that. And also a callback to what he wore on Skypiea with that pink Hawaiian shirt. And finally, Frankie is just, he's weird. Frankie's at its own hentai speed. He can't be touched. He has the best drip in the series by far. It is what it is. And after that's all said and done, we have Shaka talking to Monkey D. Dragon. This is a big deal in many respects, because not only is it solidifying the close ties between the Rev and Dr. Vegapunk, because Kuma's also aware back on Kamabaka, following the orders of one Monkey D. Dragon, even though Kuma is a weapon made for the world government. But also a call happened with Sabo. The Lulusia Kingdom was wiped out. And Rob Gucci, 2 chapters ago, noted how that may have some ties to Dr. Vegapunk. So in a roundabout way, through Rob Lucci's words, and through the events of the Lulusia Kingdom, Vegapunk are now tied to the Rev even more so, because a potential creation of Dr. Vegapunk could have potentially taken out Sabo, the Flame Emperor. So this right here, in of itself, just Dragon talking to Shaka, and then Dragon saying, "Stop telling me bad jokes, they're not funny." So he's concerned about Vegapunk's passing. There are various things that we can easily assume, and it does give more credence to the idea that Vegapunk is a member of the Rev. There's also the chance here to where this is not actually Monkey D. Dragon. It could be another person named Dragon, potentially. So there's options here, but ultimately speaking, I do like the direction a lot of where this is going. So finally, final thoughts and chapter rating. Excellent. This was an excellent chapter of One Piece. Because number one, I actually am kind of glad now in some sense that we are focusing more so on the main strat clique, because we haven't necessarily gotten that since what, like Fishman Island, where it was like, or Punk Hazard, where it was like the main Straw Hats. And the mysteries of this island are so, I think, in tune with the overall world itself, and so many important secrets of the world itself. Absolutely. The tech is dope as all hell, and finding out more about how Egghead operates, finding out about the Sky Island creation and the Pyroblin stuff. And so the Sea Stone being utilized even more so, because we know Vegapunk actually made the Sea Stone for the underbelly of the marine ships so they can cross the calm belts. These things that have been kind of like set up for like how many years on the story, so many of these routes are here on Egghead Island, and just getting a glimpse of this stuff, it's like, yes, just a glimpse is enough. Just really get the mind moving, get the mind jogging. Egghead is pretty dope. Off the rip, Egghead is pretty damn dope. But then on top of all of this, Law Blackbeard. Dude. Wow. Law has impressed me. Blackbeard, the first Guruguru no Mi official attack. Law's crew, who would have seen that coming? Not me. Not most of you. Don't lie. Don't lie. Wow. Honestly, this chapter, giving it a rating below an 8 wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair at all. In my book, this is an 8.5 to 9. 8.5 to 9 out of 10 for this chapter, One Piece, without a doubt.